Hey guys, it is August the 23rd, 2025, and I hope everybody's been having a wonderful day so far today. I hope everybody's having a wonderful start to their weekend as well, and having a sober start to their weekend at that. It's another rainy day here in South Carolina. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that right now, and I decided to go ahead and hop out here really quick and film today's video because we got a little bit of a break from the rain. I think it's supposed to rain the rest of the afternoon here in just a little bit, so it's going to be work again on the driveway here in the next couple of days, but it is what it is. What I wanted to talk about today is, when I started to notice that my health was starting to decline, I was starting to have health problems due to my drinking. And, it wasn't, I've spoken about when I got sick a bunch of times on here. When I woke up in the morning and started throwing up the black coffee grinds and, I started feeling really bad and all that stuff. But I've only touched on what it was like leading up to that a few times on here, because there was a period of time leading up to me ending up in the hospital that, I was having health problems, and I just, I turned a blind eye to them. I didn't want to pay any attention to them. And, in my head, this is the mind of a person with AUD or an addiction. It's always tomorrow. I'm going to quit tomorrow. Today's my last day. I would tell myself that all the time. So in my head, I was thinking that I'm going to be able to fix this myself. I'm going to get sober. My health is going to turn back around, and I'm not going to have to worry about it. And I'll go see a doctor after I've gotten sober for a period of time and allowed my liver to restore itself and stuff like that. That's what I was thinking in my head is, I'm going to quit. It's going to be tomorrow. Today's the last day. I need to drink the rest of the alcohol that I have laying around. Because I spent hard-earned money on this alcohol. I can't pour this out, so I'm going to finish this up. And tomorrow I will quit. Well, tomorrow never came. Now there were little stints of sobriety that I had, and I've spoken about it, but I had a bunch of them. And the crazy thing about it is that I would start feeling so much better after I would quit for any length of time. Even if it was a day, I would just start feeling better. The diarrhea would start to calm down, especially after a couple of days. If I got like 5 days into it, I wasn't spending 3 hours, 2 hours in the bathroom every single day. That would all start to kind of settle down. The headaches that I would have all the time would start to settle down. Just everything would start to settle down. You would think that when I would start to feel that way that I would go, I am not turning back and going back to the alcohol again. But, it always called me back. There was always a reason. There was always some stressful event, or I got depressed, or I got in an argument, or I had a bad day at work, or I had a great day at work, or I just got a big bonus check. It also happened in the good times too. It wasn't just bad things that, triggered me to want to have a drink. It was basically any emotion that I had, whether it be good or bad, I had to drink for it. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Like I said, I want to talk about what I noticed leading up to, ending up in the hospital and finding out that I had, cirrhosis and pancreatitis and, gallbladder problems and gastritis and diabetes and all that stuff. What I started to notice leading up to that. And like I said, that's what I'm going to talk about today. So one of the first things that, that I started to notice, and it's one of those things that I've spoken about on here just a couple of times, is the pain in my right-hand shoulder. So on your right hand, this shoulder right here, and it wasn't like right here, it was up in this area of my shoulder. I would get this pain, and it would come through my chest and in my back, and it was like somebody grabbed hold of my shoulder and just pinched it as hard as they could, and this pain would just shoot down through my right-hand side. Like, it would hurt so bad to where I'd have to stop and grab hold of my shoulder, and a lot of times it would send me down to the ground. Like, I would drop down to a knee on the ground and have to hold my shoulder. It would hurt so bad. It was excruciating. Whatever I was doing, if I got that sharp pain in my right shoulder blade, it stopped me in my tracks. I would have to stop right then And, you know, it would take a couple of minutes for that stabbing pain to go away. And I didn't realize until way, way later on down the road. As a matter of fact, I didn't realize that it was associated with liver disease until I started doing this channel and just started doing research into this and speaking with a lot of people. And I think one of the videos I just talked about the fact that I had this pain in my right shoulder, and a bunch of people came and said I had that same pain too. Then I went and started looking at it and found out that it actually is, you know, a symptom of liver disease. You know, one of the things about liver disease too is that, you know, liver disease is one of those silent diseases that, you know, there's just not a lot of symptoms leading up to it. It's a rather quiet one until things really start to fall apart. Your liver can really hang on by a thread. It can function. I think like you can live with like 5% of your liver function or something like that. It's something crazy. But our livers, you know, they can keep trucking along even after they've been, you know, damaged pretty badly, and you won't have a lot of symptoms. You know, and that can go on for long periods of time until things really start to get bad, and then you start having, you know, the serious symptoms of liver disease where there is no turning a blind eye to it. You know, you can't put you know, covers over your eyes and forget about it. I mean, it's right there in front of your face. I mean, literally right in front of your face, especially when you look down and your belly's poking out, you know, 1.5 feet out, you know, past your stomach, past your waistline. I mean, you know, 1.5 feet is probably, you know, a little bit drastic, but at least 1 foot. You know, your belly pokes out very big, and it doesn't just poke out, you know, out, like it pokes out from the sides. You just end up with this humongous stomach. And I mean, when you end up with ascites too, which I'm gonna get to this in just a second, but when you have ascites, I mean, it's almost like a snare drum. Your skin gets so tight, because, you know, our skin is not adapted to be stretched out that far. You know, our skin can stretch, but when the ascites comes on, a lot of times it comes on pretty quickly. I mean, like overnight. Like you go to bed and you wake up the next morning and your belly's, you know, filled up with a good bit of fluid. You know, so when your skin isn't adapted, like, you know, when you gain a bunch of weight, it happens over time. Your skin slowly but surely stretches out. With the ascites, it just happens overnight. Next thing you know, your skin is stretched out so tight. Like I said, it is like a snare drum. It is very, very painful to have ascites. I know I've spoken about it on here so many times. And for any of you guys that are out there that are dealing with ascites right now, I am so sorry. I pray for you guys every single day. I pray for everyone here on the channel, but especially those of you who are dealing with, you know, illnesses because of this, especially, you know, liver disease, pancreatitis, stuff like that. It's just horrible. And I'm so sorry that you're dealing with it, especially the ascites. You know, whenever I have ascites, I end up getting so depressed. Because it just limits anything that you can do. Number one, you know, I've spoken about this, but, you know, we shouldn't worry about what people think about us. I mean, it's just the way that the world works. We shouldn't, but we do. And it's just the way that we are. We're human beings. And it's embarrassing to go out in public with, you know, that amount of fluid in your belly like that. It just is. And not just that, you know, from a physical appearance standpoint, but also just the way that it makes you feel physically. It just hampers doing much. You have all this fluid on your belly. It's pushing up on your lungs, which makes breathing really hard. You can't take really deep breaths because all that fluid is pushing up on your lungs, so you never can really get, you know, a big solid breath like that, especially if you're trying to do something. So you're always taking these little short breaths, or you're breathing really short so that you know, you don't have all that pressure on your belly, and you can never get that really big deep breath, like I said, when you're trying to do something. So you just feel like you're out of breath. You feel like you're about to pass out a lot of the times with the ascites. But anyway, like I said, I just got way off topic, but the pain in the right hand shoulder is one of those things that I noticed, and it happened quite frequently to me. Another thing that I noticed too was I started to get fluid in my legs, my ankles, my thighs, right around my calf area. Just started to accumulate fluid in my legs. And one day I was out, this was when I had my business. This was after I had gotten sick the first time I ended up in the hospital. I'd gone back to work, was doing my business, and I was on a job working. My business was a physically demanding job, but I was outside working, and I had really tall socks on. And those tall socks, I had them pulled up. As a matter of fact, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. Get up here tall enough so I can show you, but I had my socks pulled up, all the way up like that. And when I had them up like that, I'm trying to get so you can see this area right here, I noticed that all around my legs right there, when I pulled my sock down, there was a really, really, really heavy ring around my leg that my sock had left. And I was like, why is it leaving such a heavy mark on my leg like that? And I pulled my sock down a little bit more, and I noticed that right at the top of the sock, where it was right at the very top, right by my knee, when I pulled it down, that little ring, there was a little if this was my leg, and this is where the sock was at right here. So this is the top of the sock right here, okay? And this is the skin. It was poking out over the side of the sock. And when I pulled my sock down, I noticed that my ankles were twice as big as they usually are. My feet were all swollen. They had turned purple. The bottom of my legs had started turning purple, and I had all this fluid in my legs. I had no idea what that was. And what I did was I just pulled my socks back down and went back to work. I don't remember what I thought that it might have been, but I just kind of brushed it off, went back to work, and finished working that day, came home, took a shower, got cleaned up, and by the time that I had done all that, the swelling had gone down. So I thought maybe it was just because I'd been on my legs for a long period of time, or maybe I'd eaten a bunch of salty food. I think that was something else. I was thinking that maybe I'd just eaten a lot of sodium, and it kind of collected a lot of fluid around my legs, but it went away later on that night. So I really didn't pay much attention to it. But then it happened again, the next week. And then right before I ended up in the hospital the second time, it was happening every single day. I was getting that fluid in my legs. Sometimes it would stay for a few days and then it would go away, but it was happening all the time. And I wasn't talking to a doctor about it. I never spoke to a doctor. Another thing that I was noticing as well is when I would lay down in the bed, I have a lot of stomach problems. I've had stomach problems my whole life. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, my dad was in the military. I was having really bad stomach problems, and they did a spinal tap on me when I was a kid so that they could see what was going on. This was military hospital back in the 80s. It is what it is, but I've had stomach problems my whole entire life, so I didn't know if, this was something that I was dealing with, because of a genetic issue, or maybe it was, something I developed over the years, or if it was alcohol related. I did notice that when I would stop drinking that my, my stomach would settle down, but once again, I've had stomach problems my whole entire life, so I've always kind of pushed down on my stomach, just felt around in my stomach. Because it hurts all the time. When your stomach hurts, you tend to rub on your belly. But I was laying in the bed one night, my stomach was hurting, and I was kind of rubbing on my belly and just kind of pushing down around it. And I was laid down enough to where my abdominal muscles were not flexed, so they were really soft. And I was pushing down on my left-hand side, probably about a hand's length down past the bottom of my rib cage on my left. And I noticed I had this really big lump in there. I never said anything about it. And it got to the point, after the first time that I had noticed it, every night when I would lay down to go to sleep, I would check that area to see if it had gotten bigger, if it had gotten smaller or whatever. And I started noticing, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it really was starting to bother me, but I just didn't want to talk to a doctor. I hadn't learned my lesson quite yet at this point, to where if you're having a problem, talk to the doctor about it. Just say something. No matter what you believe about the healthcare system and about, Western medicine and stuff like that, there are some certain things that they really can do to help you out. If you notice something, you might notice that you've got like a swollen area that's coming up, or, you never know. It could be an infection or a cyst or something like that. Something as simple as a good round of antibiotics might be able to knock it out. But, somebody like me, I never wanted to go to the doctor. I would be over there, taking a needle, lighting it on fire to sterilize it, poking things, trying to pop stuff. Just doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing. And I've messed myself up trying to doctor myself up in the past. I just made situations 10 times worse. And then I was, at the doctor for real. Now I'm having to have, surgery done. Which is another story. I'll tell you guys that story one day, but not today. One time I thought I could, doctor myself up, and ended up getting a really, really bad infection and had to have emergency surgery done. But I'll tell you guys that story another day. So like I said, and that big spot, that big swollen area that I kept feeling, that was my spleen that had gotten swollen. And, a swollen spleen is super, super common with liver disease and stuff like that, because when we end up with liver disease, our liver's so scarred that the blood can't flow through it. All the blood in our body flows through our liver, and it flows through the portal vein into our liver. And, like I said, our livers end up getting really scarred. The blood can't flow through there properly. It gets backed up. All that scarring, it's like a dirty sponge. It's like an old, dirty sponge. If you got a brand new sponge, if you run it underwater, it'll collect water in it very easily. You can wring the water out very easily. You could put the brand new sponge underneath the faucet at full power and stick it right up underneath that faucet, and the water will flow through that brand new sponge. But when you have a dirty, old, dry sponge, you put that up underneath that faucet and try running water through it, it's just going to flow around the sponge. It's not going to go through it that well, which is the old, dirty sponge is like a damaged, scarred up cirrhotic liver. The new sponge would be a nice healthy liver, and what that does is it creates back pressure, so that blood cannot flow through that vein properly, and it creates back pressure on that portal vein, and when that happens, it creates back pressure on all your other organs as well. And one of the organs that gets a lot of back pressure due to that, because it's, all plumbed in together, is your spleen. And your spleen will start to enlarge when we start to have, scarring in the liver and portal hypertension. Portal hypertension is that high blood pressure in the portal vein due to the back pressure that's created because the blood can't flow through there, which in turn, like I said, starts to enlarge our spleen. So that's another thing that I started to notice. And that was before I found out that I had cirrhosis. I had already been in the hospital, but when I left the hospital the first time, they said, you had pancreatitis and acute pancreatic attack, and you have diabetes. You have type 2 diabetes, and you have pancreatitis. Don't drink anymore. Go home, take care of yourself, and you're going to be fine. I thought, wow, I'm going to be okay. Well, ended up that wasn't the case. But, once again, that's another story for another day, too. Another thing that I was dealing with is, after I would eat, immediately after I would try to eat something, I was on the toilet. Instantly, my stomach was a wreck. I would have diarrhea after every meal, and it immediately, which is one of those things, that really sucks about being in an active addiction like that, especially to alcohol, because, you're trying to plan your day, you want to go do something fun, and you have to seriously think about, are there going to be bathrooms around? Am I going to be able to access a bathroom easily? Because deep down inside that your stomach's going to be a wreck. So you might go, let's say you go out to the fair for the day. Either you're going to eat or you're just not going to eat anything at all, because that if you do, it's going to mess your stomach up and you're going to be in one of those porta potties for the next hour and a half. So you just go all day and don't eat, and you just drink, and you think that just drinking alcohol is going to suffice for a meal. That's what I did every single day. But my stomach was always a wreck. Always. But especially after I ate. It was like I had to go to the bathroom right away. So most times I didn't eat anything unless I was home. That way I could use my own restroom. But, once again, every time that I ate, and most of the time too, my stomach hurt. Another thing that I started to notice was, starting to collect fluid in my belly. I was collecting fluid in my belly before I got sick the very first time. I was noticing that my belly was starting to enlarge, but I was losing weight everywhere else. My arms were getting skinny. My legs were getting skinny. My face was starting to thin out. My chest was thinning out. My thighs had thinned out, but my stomach did not. And it seemed like my stomach was actually getting bigger, but it wasn't belly fat. It just felt like I had eaten a really, really big meal. Like I just went and ate a big buffet of food. I just felt bloated like that all the time, and my belly was protruding. I didn't know what that was until later on. Found out it was ascites that I was already starting to develop. Which, once again, ascites is absolutely horrible. If there is any reason to stay sober out there for anything, it's so that you don't end up with ascites. I can promise you, mark my words right now, it is by far one of the worst things that you can deal with. And if you end up with it, I'm so sorry if you do. It's just something that you do not want to end up with. And sometimes, you can stop drinking today, but the damage has been done. At some point later on down the road, that might happen. But there are ways to get rid of the ascites. And one of the most important things that we can do is to stop drinking. After you've spoken with a doctor, but just not drinking and staying sober. Your liver, even it could be super damaged, but it can still try to repair itself, and your liver can run. It can limp along, with barely anything left. But stopping drinking and stopping the damage to the liver is a huge one. Another thing is that, I wrote this down, but I've already kind of talked about it, but I was always in the bathroom, always, especially when I woke up in the morning. I had to wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, just so I could spend at least an hour in the toilet. I had to wake up early so that I could, spend my time in the bathroom every morning. And that still didn't, add up for all the time that I would be in the bathroom every day. I'd spend an hour in the bathroom before I left to go to work. I'd get to work. I'd work for maybe an hour or two. I was right back in the bathroom again for 30 minutes. I'd come back in. We'd get ready for lunch. We'd have our lunch rush. Probably 1, 2 o'clock, I was back in the bathroom again. If I bring any of my old guys that used to work with me back in the day, if I bring any of them on here, they will all tell you that I was always in the bathroom. Right after the dinner rush, I would jet out of the kitchen and go to the bathroom. My stomach was always a wreck, and I've spoken to so many people on here that have dealt with the same thing. Alcohol just destroys your stomach. It destroys the lining of your stomach, and not just that, but it kills all the good bacteria, so your gut biome gets completely out of whack. Then you end up with the bacteria that you don't want in your belly that thrive off of sugars and yeasts. And there's a saying that the scientists are saying these days that our stomach is basically our digestive tract. It's like our second brain. They found that we produce serotonin in the belly or in the intestines now. And what else can happen too is we get a lot of that bad bacteria that grows in our stomach, and then that bacteria will produce chemicals that will then send messages to your brain and tell your brain more sugar, more yeast, because that's what the bacteria thrives off of. And these bacteria know how to produce the chemicals that will send signals to your brain for, to make you want to eat more of it so that they can get what they want. And then it continues to multiply, and, your gut biome's completely out of whack. And it takes a while for that to get back in order after you quit drinking. I would say at least 2-3 weeks. But anyway, pain in my liver. So right on your right-hand side, right underneath your rib cage right there, and if you took your hand, like this, here's my rib cage right here. So this whole area, just from here in the middle of your stomach, all the way, and then all the way over, that whole area, you have this dull pain all day. And that's the only way I can really describe it. I would get sharp pains in my liver, and I still do to this day. But I have liver disease as well. But it used to be like the only way I can really describe it is that I could feel my liver inside of me all the time. It felt like my liver weighed, it was like my liver weighed 40 pounds. It was like an anvil sitting inside of me. Like I said, the only way I can describe it is that I could feel it in there all the time. It was like my liver was trying to push its way out of my body. It just felt like there was pressure down there all the time. And I would get these sharp pains throughout the day. And sometimes it would literally feel like somebody just stabbed me in the knife with the belly. In the belly with a knife. I got my words all tangled up today, but that's the way it felt. And it would be very, very painful. I mean, just like when I said earlier, that I would get that pain in my right hand shoulder that would make me drop down to the ground. That pain in the liver sometimes would do the same thing. And I felt that pain in my liver for years. And I never told a doctor. Never. And I went and saw doctors, over the years for stuff. I was getting gout flare-ups. And the crazy thing is, I'd go to the doctor with a gout flare-up. I couldn't even walk. The gout would be so bad. And the doctor would ask me, do you drink? Oh, yeah, I just have like a beer or two. And, yeah, okay, well, then we're not going to worry about that then. That's not what's causing the gout. It was absolutely what was causing the gout. The smoking and the drinking and then eating, really rich foods in the middle of the night after I passed out. Excuse me, it was just insane. The next thing that I used to have happen to me all the time, one of the symptoms that used to happen to me all the time was the lightheadedness. I would get so lightheaded, and this is one of the reasons that I had such bad anxiety when I drove a car, because I got lightheaded so often. I mean, to the point where I felt like I was going to pass out. I felt like I was just losing touch with reality is the only way I could say it. It's like I would get this like tunnel vision. Everything was, wide open, and then all of a sudden everything kind of came down to a tunnel. Everything around it would just be this like matte black, and then I would see a light in the center. And then I would get this like this noise in my ear that sounded almost like I was inside of a cave, almost is the only way I can describe it. And almost like I would hear people, like this really muffled noise. Like if you put your hands over your ears like that, that's exactly kind of what I would hear when I would get this little, when I would get really lightheaded like that. I would just hear that mumble kind of sound. I guess you could probably get if I covered up the microphone, I would get that. And then I would also, I would hear like almost like an echo sound when people would talk when I got like that. And it would scare me so bad, especially if I had my kids in the car and I was trying to drive, and all of a sudden I got that overwhelming feeling like I was about to pass out. It was absolutely insane. Now, was it related to the liver disease or my pancreas problems, or was it, to do with my diabetes and the fact that I was drinking all night long and not eating food, and drinking all this stuff that had all these carbohydrates in it? I don't know. I would imagine that my diabetes probably played a huge role in that, but, I'm not sure, and I just wanted to add it to today's list because it's something that I experienced when, before I got sick. Another one was I started losing hair. I was losing hair really, really bad. I went over to my brother's house one day, and we were swimming at his next door neighbor's house. And this was the same day that my brother was talking to me about the spider, I can't remember what they're called, but the spider veins in my face. And he was telling me, which is another thing too, I started getting the spider veins all over my face, up here on my forehead, up underneath my eyes. I got these spider veins, and they're still here. They will not go away. They were way more pronounced back in the day, but if you look, you can see them all right here on my face. And they're on this side as well. But, once again, that's another symptom. I forgot all about that. But like I said, I was losing hair, right all up here on the top. I was losing hair all over my body, and I've got hair on my legs, my chest, my arms. I'm a pretty hairy guy. and hair just started falling out all over the place. I was losing hair in my beard, which, hair falls out. I mean, it's just normal, but everything was getting very, 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 very thin. The sides of my hair started to thin out really, really bad, and it was kind of starting to bald. My receding hairline, my hair started growing back, but my hair started going all the way back right there. And this whole area right here was very, very, very thin. But I just started losing a lot of hair during that period of time. Probably had to do with, the fact that my testosterone levels dropped drastically, and, I was getting a lot of estrogen. My estrogen levels were super high. I remember my doctor talking to me at one point because he had run my blood work, and he was talking to me about the fact that my testosterone levels were, kaput. They were gone, and my estrogen levels were through the roof. And he was saying, you're probably going to experience, the fact that you get really emotional. You're probably going to start crying a lot more. And I was like, Doc, I already beat you to the punch. I'm like crying all the time already, as is. It doesn't matter. Because I would get so emotional over nothing. I remember my wife would come home from work and just walk in the room, and I would be laying in the bed, and she'd say, how was your day today? And I just burst out into tears. I could not control my emotions at all. But that's another thing that happened to me. I didn't even have it on the list for today. But once again, I was starting to lose hair. Another thing I experienced too, I've spoken about this many times on here. This is one of those really personal things, which is really embarrassing to talk about, but I'm here to tell you guys the truth. And I want to be completely open so that, other people, know about this and know about the symptoms that come along with this. And what that is the loss of sex drive. Absolutely none. Just no sex drive whatsoever at all. And I was not like that my whole entire life. Number one, I have 3 children. They didn't get here because, and I'm not trying to, be immature here, but, I didn't call the stork in to have my children. I don't need to go any further with that, but, my sex drive was completely gone, which was not normal to me. I just did not understand it. Completely gone, and it's still gone. None whatsoever at all. That is not returned. Will it return one day? I don't know. I haven't spoken to my doctor about testosterone replacement or anything like that. The last time that I had my blood work done, my testosterone levels are actually starting to come up some. But they're still not where they need to be. But, once again, we have not discussed testosterone replacement or anything like that. So I don't know. Maybe that might be something that they might be willing to do at some point. But it's not a big deal right now. I've got so much other stuff going on. That's the last thing I'm worried about. But once again, that's another thing that I had happen to me, which, like I said, was not normal for me. I was not always that way. And then just to completely lose interest in it. Just another one of the things that happened. I started losing my eyesight. It's another thing that happened as well. I have not worn glasses my whole life. I didn't start wearing glasses until like 4 months before I got sick. Just everything kind of started falling apart all at once, and I'm not kidding. My eyesight started going bad like really quick. I always... over the years, I had noticed that my eyesight started going bad, but it wasn't like super bad. If I was standing, 40 feet away from an expo board, I might not be able to read the fine detail on it. Or if we were in the middle of a meeting and, they had the projector out and they were projecting something on the wall, maybe I had to sit closer to the front so I could read the stuff on the board, but it wasn't that bad. Now, if I take my glasses off, I can't see anything. It's gotten so bad over the years, and every single year when I go to have my eye exam done, my eyes have just gotten worse and worse and worse. And as a matter of fact, my right eye is the one that keeps getting really, really bad. My left eye is getting worse too, but my right eye is like really, really getting bad. But anyway, that's another thing. I started losing my eyesight, which I would imagine is probably more attributed to the diabetes. Because the diabetes, high blood sugar, it damages the very small little veins in our body. And, we have a lot of really small little veins in our eyes, and it can damage those and damage our eyesight. Another one, high blood pressure. I had high blood pressure all the time, and I knew I had high blood pressure. I could just feel it. When your blood pressure starts to get really high, you'll start to feel this like pressure back behind your eyeballs, like ocular pressure. And then I would get a really, really bad headache. I could hear my heart beating in my ears. My blood pressure would get to that point. My face would turn beet red, and sometimes it would turn purple. My feet would turn purple, my face turned purple, my eyes would turn purple. My ears, I am just out of whack today. My ears turned purple. And like I said, I could feel this like ocular pressure. I could feel like my heart beating in my ears. I could hear the pump, and it was almost like I could feel it back behind my eardrums. It was almost like there was pressure behind the eardrums, like pushing on them whenever my heart would beat. So I'd hear that, really loud, like back behind there, and super bad headache. You can just tell that your blood pressure is elevated. And my blood pressure is through the roof all the time. Anytime I went to the doctor for anything, they used to tell me, leave here and go to the emergency room. Your blood pressure is that bad. It would be 200 and something over like 180. Like, I'm not kidding. I don't remember what the numbers were, but like every time I had my blood pressure checked, like it would freak them out. So that's another thing too, that I dealt with. But that's it for the list that I have right now. I mean, it's a good bit of stuff, but these are the things that I experienced before I got sick. These things are screaming out to me saying, go see a doctor, stop drinking alcohol, stop smoking cigarettes, start eating better, get your life in order, start drinking more water. And when I say that I did not drink water, I didn't. If I was thirsty, I drank beer. Now, I didn't drink an IPA, but I would drink like Budweiser. I always had beer on me wherever I was. And if I was thirsty, I drank beer. I was not drinking water. I did not drink soda. I didn't drink anything else. It was only alcohol. It's just insane. I don't even know how I've managed to stay alive as long as I have. I have lost so many friends of mine over the years. So many friends, so many people that I've known over the years that have passed away due to addiction to either alcohol or another substance. I've lost so many friends of mine to alcohol. Just this year alone, I've lost like 3 friends to alcohol. It's just insane. And when I say that I've lost a lot of people, I mean, I'm talking about friends that I've lost over the years, maybe 100 people. There was at one point, I sat down with a friend of mine and we wrote down all the friends that we had lost. And this was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago or something. And we sat down and wrote down a list of all the friends that we had lost due to addiction. And we came at 58 people. And like I said, that was like 15 years ago. And I know that number's increased massively over the years. Now, not all these people are like best friends of mine, but they were friends. And, a lot of them are gone. As a matter of fact, I just lost a really good friend of mine just a few months ago to cirrhosis. Now, he knew he had cirrhosis. He found out he had cirrhosis probably about 7-8 years ago or something. So he managed to live for quite a while. But he just recently lost his life. His father has lost both of his sons now. His other son didn't pass away from anything to do with addiction, but he's lost both of his sons. And the son that just passed away was the baby, and he was younger than I am. I think he was probably maybe 40 when he passed. It's just sad. And this is one of those things, you start experiencing these symptoms, any of them, especially like the pain in the right shoulder, the pain in the liver, throwing up. That's another one I didn't have written down, was the throwing up every single day. I woke up every single morning and threw up. If you're throwing up every morning, you're getting pain in your liver, you're starting to accumulate fluid in your legs, you're starting to accumulate fluid in your belly. Any of these things, high blood pressure, You would be surprised at the amount of damage that high blood pressure can cause to your body just by letting high blood pressure go unchecked. It causes so much damage. And the thing is being proactive. You can save yourself not only but so much money in the long run, but so much heartache, pain, putting your family through all of this stuff. Because when we get sick, it's not just us that gets sick or has to deal with this. It's not just us that's going through pain and agony and sadness. Our friends and family go through it with us. They might not be going through the physical pain that we are, or going through the, all the stuff that we have to deal with, sitting in a hospital bed. They might not have to get the IV lines ran, and, maybe they don't have to have those pumps on your legs to keep you from getting blood clots and all that kind of stuff. And they don't have to worry about the doctor coming in and talking to them every day. But they hurt for us. They feel the pain of, they don't want to lose us. They love us. We put them through so much. I've put my family through so much agony because of my addiction. And I didn't even drink anymore at that point. I have stressed my family out to the point of almost breaking. I've stressed my children out. I've stressed my wife out, my mom and my dad, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. I've just stressed everybody out. I've stressed out my friends because they worry about me. And, like I said, it's not just us that has to go through it. And if you're experiencing any of this kind of stuff that's on this list right here, just go speak with a doctor. Find out what's going on with you. It's so much better to catch this soon. We'll catch it sooner than later. Because if you catch it and you find out that you are starting to develop problems, if you go ahead and stop with your doctor's guidance, you might be able to prevent yourself from ending up with liver disease or something. You might find out that you have fatty liver. And nobody wants to find out they have fatty liver. They just don't. But if you do find out you have fatty liver, stop drinking, change your diet, start drinking more water, start exercising, start getting out in the sun more, these types of things. That fatty liver can reverse itself, and you can go on living your life just as long as anybody else out there. But once your liver gets damaged, once it gets cirrhotic, once it starts getting scarred, there's no coming back. We cannot heal that scar tissue. Once that scar tissue is there, it is there. And it does not heal itself again after that. But your liver can bring itself back, basically to 100% after fatty liver. So that's one of those things, one of those reasons to go speak with your doctor, because you could find out that that's what's going on with you and turn it all around. But if you don't know that you have fatty liver, then you don't know that you need to change anything. So you might go on continuing to drink for the next 10, 20 years, eating poorly, and not realize it. And then one day, you just wake up feeling bad, you go to the doctor, and, the whole thing comes crumbling down. You find out that your liver's cirrhotic and your pancreas is completely fried and your gallbladder's shot and your esophagus is shot and you've got varices, which is another thing, I started throwing up blood. Didn't know what that was. I had no idea what varices were. I know nothing about any of this stuff until I got sick. I definitely wasn't going on there and looking any of this stuff up or reading about it or watching videos about it because I was too afraid to. So kudos to you guys for watching today's video and wanting to find out about this stuff. It's very important to do so. You have got way more courage than I ever did, because I never would have watched a video like this. I would have been far too afraid. It would have made me paranoid, and I would have not have watched it. So once again, kudos to you. You're brave. You have courage for watching this. Even if you haven't started your journey yet, you're taking that first step just by watching videos on this. Maybe you're looking stuff up online about it, but this is a step. And like I keep saying, we have to make some kind of a step. It doesn't have to be a literal step, a physical step. It's just a step in the right direction. You're moving forward. A step could be just picking up the phone and calling your doctor's office and making an appointment to have a physical done because you haven't had one done in the past decade. I didn't have my first physical until I was 43 years old. 43. was my very first physical. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. I should not have waited that long. If I had had a physical done every single year like you're supposed to, and a lot of the times too, when you have health insurance, you get a free physical every year. They would rather you go and have a physical so that they can know what's going on with you, so that you can be proactive, and the doctors can be proactive, because they might be able to prevent the disease from going any further. So once again, it's probably covered under your health insurance if you do have health insurance. So just picking up the phone and making a doctor's appointment, going online and booking an appointment virtually. Maybe getting on Amazon Doctor like I was talking about in yesterday's video, and just talking to them about maybe getting on some naltrexone or something like that. There's ways, and once again, just making that step in the right direction, as small as it is, at least you're doing something. It's way more than I ever did, because I was far too afraid to make that first step, because I didn't want to stop drinking. I wanted to keep drinking. And if there's one thing I can tell you guys, after dealing with having liver disease and chronic pancreatitis and all this stuff for all of these years now, it's been 3 years at this point, I really wish that I had stopped drinking years ago. I just wish I had. I wish I had gone and spoken to a doctor, but I didn't. And, that's why I come on here every single day and talk about this, is so that I can get the education out there for more and more people to hear about this. Make sure people are aware of how dangerous alcohol truly is. It's not this innocent thing that people do on the weekends or after work when they get off at nighttime. It's not. Alcohol is very dangerous. It's highly addictive. It's so dangerous to our body. It damages just about every single organ in our body when we drink it, including your brain. It's just dangerous. And not only does it destroy our bodies, but it destroys our relationships, our families, just everything. Alcohol destroys everything in its path. It's like a Category 5 hurricane. It truly is. So anyway, guys, that's it for my list today. Like I said, I just wanted to talk about some things that I noticed before I found out that I had liver disease, some of the symptoms and things I was dealing with. And, once again, please be safe. If you decide to try to stop drinking, just make sure you speak with a doctor first, because quitting alcohol or benzodiazepines abruptly can be life-threatening, and you do not want to end up in the hospital because of that. Just go speak with a doctor. Let them make the decision for you, and then move forward with it from there. So, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I know today's video is already pretty long, but I can get to talking about this stuff and carry on and carry on and carry on when I'm speaking about it. So, sorry today's video is as long as it is, but I'll try to make a little bit shorter of one tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I really do appreciate it. And until tomorrow, I will see you all then. I love you guys so much. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend. See you guys tomorrow.